You released your album, your latest album, in 2022, September, called "The Ballad of Lucy Stone."
That's right.
You've been playing music since the age of 15. You had one album come out in 2006, a few more between in the mid 2000s, between 2006 and now. Um, what would you say about why you decided to venture into the blues side of things?
Um, I think yeah, I kind of started out, listening to kind of early 50s rock and roll, and those kind of artists. And again, a lot of them were kind of influenced by the blues. Obviously, there's a huge blues influence. So it gave me a chance to kind of go back and kind of learn about people like, Buddy Guy and BB King. Albert King definitely was a big influence um, in his albums, and I really love the horns that were kind of coming out of the those kind of things. So that's what kind of gravitated me towards that sound, was really like the big bluesy stuff, like big BB King with like the five horns and things like that was what really kind of got me into that style.
Okay, because the difference between the last album of the Ballad of Lucy Stone and your first album in 2006 is quite a big difference. You went from more experimental to something actually with a lot of gravitas. The album that you released recently is very superb in regards to the balance of the brass and the wood. Well, wood. There's no woodwinds, but the wind instruments that you're actually bringing to the fray. Now you've been operating out of Northern Ontario. In fact, you were born in a small town in that province, yes?
Oh, I just you're back.
Okay, sorry. So you decided to um, jump into the musical industry from the first days of you coming out. I'm assuming that you probably were playing around before you hit the stage at the age of 15.
It was pretty soon. I started kind of early, and then again, growing up in a small town, there wasn't a lot of people playing music. So when I started, there was actually a lot of opportunity for gigs and things like that. So I think I started around 15, and probably the first gig I had was maybe a year after that.
Okay.
And then just kind of the word spread around there, and I got a lot of opportunities to play with some other bands, including some bands that had a horn section.
Okay.
And I think that's when then after high school, I moved here to Hamilton, um, and and uh, and that to pursue more music, because I wanted to be able to find a band and learn how to write music for horns, and because I always wanted to have that kind of at least two horns, three horns to get that kind of big sound into the music that I was kind of working on.
Well, it's a big sound to say the least. The Now you're gonna have to coach me through the reason why you called the album "The Ballad of Lucy Stone."
Okay, sure. So I was reading a book. I can't remember what book, but there's part of it that kind of mentioned this woman, Lucy Stone, who was again this women's rights activist in the and civil rights activist in the around the 1850s. And what kind of struck me was her approach to really changing people's minds about the way they were thinking, and instead of just kind of telling people that change to have doing it in a way that was kind of to empathize with it, and to picture their own families and their own mothers and sisters, and what they would want was best for them, and just her whole approach to and never giving up in this kind of impossible task at the time, And so after kind of reading a little bit about her, I ended up finding a book or two on her specifically, and diving a bit deeper into kind of her journey, and realizing that she had a lot to do with the women's right movements, and giving the women's right to vote in America in the 1920s. But unfortunately, because she was so busy when they were writing the history books of what was happening, um, they did ask her to write her own history, essentially, of what was going on, and her response was just that she didn't have time because the battle was still going on, essentially, and she still had more work to do, as opposed to kind of talk about how great she was, or her influence. So as a
Mhm.
result, her kind of uh, she kind of fell through the cracks of history. So the title track, Ballad of Lucy Stone, is really kind of inspired by her actions and her way of thinking. And I just felt that if I could kind of inspired to write the song, and be able to kind of talk about it like we are today, or at the live shows, that some other people might be able to also be inspired by this person who kind of took on this impossible task and just never gave up.
Oh. So basically, it's something that's from awe-inspiring to awe-listening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, Now, the album officially came out the 30th of September, but I'm assuming that you probably had to put at least a year work into actually making it, uh, bringing it into reality.
Right. Well, yeah, the way how I usually put an album together, how this comes together is, I write all the music myself, so I write for the instrumentation, so I write for the arrangement, I write like the string parts, the horn parts, everything like that. So that in itself, I think it takes a while. I couldn't tell you how long that takes, because it's kind of a little bit it's kind of chipping away at a little bit at a time. But the actual recording process, by getting really good players, you can record that whole album in about 6 or 7 days, in studio, with the right players, which has kind of become key. So, um, so now it's not 7 days in a row. Scheduling is always a challenge, but it was 7 days, I think, total, that we were in the studio, kind of putting down all the parts. So that's the thing. Once it's arranged and you know exactly what you want, and because I produced it myself, I knew exactly going in, and being able to find like the top players we have in the area.
Mhm.
It made it a lot easier to make that kind of sound a reality.
Okay, and I'm assuming that the writing would have been probably in the last year, 2 years. Recording
Yeah.
would have happened when, this year?
Yeah, it was kind of scattered a little bit, and again, pandemic kind of halts things here or there, but yeah, it was basically kind of around that, and then the writing just kind of comes. I usually take about 2 years to kind of write the songs and arrange them, and then when they're ready, it can happen pretty quickly with the actual recording process.
Okay.
If I can get and I have a good now. Since I've done so many albums now, I've been able to really gather some of the best musicians in the area, which who can come in, read the music, and get it done very in 1 or 2 takes usually, for all the parts. So which is nice.
Okay. Now, in the album, folks, in case you don't have it yet, is 10 songs worth 41 minutes, rounded up 42 minutes worth of listening experience. One of the songs that actually caught my ear and my eye in regards to the actual title was "Golden Handcuffs."
Right.
The sounds are so relaxing. I mean, you can really get into it. It's not overly impactful in regards to beating your eardrums to dust.
Right. Well, sounds good.
Your singing has improved from your first album to now. We can hear it as we progress through them, all available on Spotify, which is a blessing in disguise. But can you tell us why you decided to call that particular song Golden Handcuffs?
Yeah, it's fun. That song is funny without thinking about it, but like a lot of people do mention that song and ask me about the title of it. And Golden Handcuffs was just kind of in a way, kind of a metaphor of how sometimes we kind of chain ourselves to this idea of making money all the time or working all the time to pay for things we don't need, that kind of thing. So it was more about kind of realizing, and kind of the theme of the song is kind of realizing that sometimes we work so hard to buy all these big things that we've kind of chained ourselves. Like we're the ones that put on these golden handcuffs, which are the very very expensive and the kind of thing, to kind of pay for these things that we don't really need, but then we have to work more. So it kind of is more like kind of a, imprisoning ourselves in kind of materialistic things, basically.
Okay. Now, I know that you're going to be touring at least nationally, because I think your next tour date's the 5th of November in Hamilton, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Are you currently looking towards going out of country at any point?
Yeah, we a few years ago for the last album, we've done the UK and Ireland quite a bit, and so we're looking forward to kind of, now that things are starting to open up again, we're looking forward to being able to kind of go back out there. So right now we're just in the process of kind of lining up dates and booking venues, and that kind of thing.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you probably have contacts in the UK as to musicians that you'd like to tap on the shoulder to assist you in bringing in other types of musical instruments into your actual
Yes.
shows.
Yeah, that's right. So we actually have we've since we've been there 6 or 7 times, I think, tours that we've done over the years. We have musicians that we play there. So sometimes we'll bring a few musicians that we have here, and then but usually it's at least half of the musicians are UK musicians, which is great because then you can still have that big sound if we want. We want still we always want a full horn section, but if we want to go 4 or 5 horns, then we have access to these players. And it's nice because we've become friends over the years, so we do have places to stay, and they're able to kind of let us know, like, the best places to check out, or even venues that are good ones to kind of look at booking. So it's worked very well over the years of kind of gathering musicians from over there.
Well, that's epic. The only thing that I'd like to see is eventually have you at the Harvest Festival in Fredericton.
Right. Well, I like to see that too.
I know the previous bluesman that I actually got to interview just earlier this week, Chris, was intending on hopefully coming down to the Harvest Festival. It used to be Harvest Jazz and Blues, but they changed it to Simple Harvest because it's more than just jazz and blues now. They have other types of themes, sounds, musical stylings. I mean, we've had hip hop to, I wouldn't say pop, but we did have some unique names that came from the U.S. to play on the stages that they put into place.
Right.
Um, Now with this new album, um, would you say that you, especially with the arrangements, would you say that you actually opened up a brand new door in regards to your musical trove?
Yeah, I think with each album, I think that's the thing. As you mentioned, with some of the earlier albums, each time it kind of evolves, and you kind of learn a little bit more as you go. So I think it was about 3 albums back, an album called "Left with the Blues" was the first time we used strings and backing vocals, really. and went with the fuller orchestration of like 20-piece band. And that's the thing. Each time you do an album, you try a bunch of things, you learn a lot, and then you kind of see and you talk to the musicians too, and you get an idea of what the limitations of the instruments or what they're capable of, or what works or doesn't. So when the more instruments you add, the less each one kind of does, and you have to think about frequencies, the higher lows, and what works and that kind of thing. So this whole other kind of science that goes into what works and what doesn't. So I find with each album, it's a stepping stone to the next one. I learn a little bit more, and then I can kind of push the boundaries a little bit more and try something else. Or you learn that, oh, this instrument can actually go higher than what's there, or you learn about vibrato on a violin or something, and or a bend that the backing vocals can do. And so it's nice to actually, each time I do it, I find it's like an education. It's like taking a course on how to make music each time, as I learn. So yeah, so each album, I'd like to think or hope that it's a little kind of advancements, and I can definitely see when I listen to all the albums I've done, definitely see the progression over the years.
Okay. Now, with everything that you've done, that you've achieved since the age of 15 and onward, um, typically, if we take a broad scope in regards to other musical artists, you're either a single man, single woman, or you've got a partner in your life or pets.
Right.
All depending on what it is. Do you have that particular support on your end?
Yes, I do. I've been very lucky that the person I'm with, Loretta, is also, and we've been together about 15 years, and she also plays trumpet in the band as well as cello. So um, it's I think it's very important, or it's been a huge importance to me to have somebody that's there to support, and can kind of be there on your side and helping out. And again, she's there, she's helping to book the tours, and even when we're making the album, she's sending the emails to organize things, and as well as, again, playing on the album. So it works very well because we're always on the same gigs, as we go, unless she gets the occasional gig that's string quartet or something.
Mhm.
But more or less, we have that where we have a very good support system that we've kind of developed over the years, and it's very much the reason I can do what I do, and the reason I think I can stay motivated and push through, the hard times or the difficult situations, is because I have somebody there that understands the situation and can be there for support, and we can sit there and kind of figure out, this kind of crazy business together, and kind of what we want, and hope to get out of it.
Yeah, crazy business is putting it mildly. It is in certain instances. It can be stressful, especially when things go out of control, where you have no control and you have to think about, okay, well, how can we bring this back into something resembling some form of normalcy? But it doesn't always happen that way. You get a flat tire
Rarely.
on you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
get a
yeah.
flat tire on your way. You get stuck in the snowstorm, so on and so forth.
Yeah, you get very you just get used to that being normal, I guess, I find. And then you just get very good at being able to adapt as you go. I know the first time we went to the UK, we had brought a whole band, and we got there, and I'd never driven on the other side of the road, so that was a experience for the first time. And but then we got there, and we had to figure out where to get, an amp, where to get a drum set, all those things. And it was just one of those things, you just, okay, here's the situation, and it's just about kind of staying calm and kind of figuring it out. And same with, yeah, like you mentioned, adapting to situations where something changes, as we've seen so many times. So when it becomes the normal thing, you get really good at adapting and always thinking, always having 5 backup plans for every plan you have. So if this doesn't work, I'll do this. If that doesn't work, I'll do this. And then it
Mm.
definitely keeps you busy. And again, just like making albums, you learn through each experience, and really kind of figure out what you want out of music, which can be different. Some people might look for more fame or that kind of thing, and other people, I'm happy to, just being able to make music like this and making a living at it and playing for crowds, however big, that enjoy the music. So there's a lot that goes into it, and yeah, it's not a one size fits all kind of industry, that's for sure.
Mm. Now, that said, um, that's pretty much it for the interview process on my end. It always finishes with the following two off right
Okay.
field questions. Let's see if we can get the camera open on this. There we go.
If I can get mine here too, see if we can.
Okay, let's see if it holds stable. So the question that I've got two questions. First question is, do you have any hobbies?
Do you have any hobbies? Yeah, I think it's important to always have something outside of music, right? To do that. So I do read quite a bit. I also currently am restoring a 72-year-old cedar strip boat. Um, so
We'll go off camera. Let's try this again. Andre, you still with us? Hello?
oh, hello.
Okay, we'll stay off camera because
Okay.
apparently it doesn't like having
Yeah.
us.
Okay.
So you were mentioning that you're restoring a cedar strip boat?
Yeah, yeah. So, so and I find it's those kind of tasks where your mind can kind of wander, and that's sometimes you need that break from music, something that's completely different where you're using your mind in a different way. So, I have that, and again, and I just I read a lot of different books on all different kinds of things, because I find that also helps with the songwriting process. A lot on behavioral economics and how our minds work and how other people's minds work and why we do the things we do. I always find interesting, and again, it kind of then it leads to usually a lot of the subjects of a lot of the songs I write as well.
Oh. Now, the last question I would have is, what's your favorite dish,
Food wise?
food-wise?
Oh, that's a tricky question.
Any particular foods or dishes that you tend to gravitate towards whenever it's presented to you? I'll give you an
Uh,
example. Me, it's my grandmother's. Um, basically, it's a beef stew, but it's called
okay,
patato nord in French.
right,
In English, if you did the literal translation, it
North
would be
Pacific,
fox potatoes.
right, okay, right,
And a traditional flatbread that we call ploy.
right.
And that's my main dish. That's what I always gravitate towards. Now, I've heard butter chicken, Italian, Mexican, you name it. Especially depends
Yeah.
on what you prefer.
Right, right. I think, well, definitely butter chicken is in the weekly mix for myself. Definitely in the winter months. And yeah, I'm trying to think of what's kind of my go-to. I'm always partial to a good steak for sure. Um, so those are kind of my go-tos. Definitely if there's options, say at gigs, for different meals, that I definitely would gravitate to a nice steak or some roast beef for sure. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that pretty much ends the interview.
All right. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time off your busy day, and I hope everything goes well for your first gig of the winter.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, and and promoting the music, and because all of this helps just kind of get the music out there and allows us to kind of keep doing what we're doing. So thanks
Yes.
so much.
Oh, you're very much welcome.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.